Now I'd like to introduce Acting Director of Athletics and Recreation, Bob Ceplikas, who will step to the podium and say a few words.
Thanks, Rick, and welcome everyone who's here and those who are tuning in from around the country and around the world. It really is a special day, something that we have seen as an opportunity, as a chance to really take a positive step towards bringing one more very important program into a stronger position. And when we embarked on this process, one of the things that we were determined to do was to get a lot of key people involved, because I personally am the first to admit that I certainly don't have the contacts or the knowledge throughout the basketball world that some others do. And so it was awfully important to get a number of key folks involved, and I want to just mention that we are very grateful for the hard work that our Alumni Advisory Committee did, chaired by Dave Gavitt, class of '59, and also certainly very appreciative of the work that my colleagues here on campus did, in particular Brian Austin, who worked tirelessly to make sure we were turning over every stone in this process. One of the things that was really crucial to this process, and has been absolutely crucial all year in my tenure as acting athletic director, has been the intimate engagement of President Kim. It was very clear from the beginning of this process that he wanted to be closely involved, and came through in very important ways by meeting individually with each of our finalists on campus and making very clear what his vision is for athletics and for men's basketball. And I'm certainly very grateful that he was willing to play that important role in this search. And so before I have the pleasure of introducing our new coach, it's my great pleasure to introduce President Jim Yong Kim.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Yong Kim. I'm the 17th president of Dartmouth College. It has always been my fantasy to do a sports press conference at some point in my life. So it's very exciting for me to be here. You know, let me just say, when I came here, I had made it very clear to everyone in our community that I think athletics is important. I myself played intercollegiate volleyball. And growing up as a kid, this is what I wanted to do. I mean, I was a 5'10" Korean-American kid from Iowa, and I wanted to play in the NBA. And I was a gym rat in all the way through junior high and high school. And I learned lessons on the basketball court, on the football field, on the golf course, on the tennis courts, that I know I never could have learned anywhere else. And so I made it clear to everyone at Dartmouth College that we're going to do sports right. We're going to get it right. We're going to be competitive in everything that we do. We're going to make sure that all of our athletes get the kind of support they need. But moreover, we're going to make athletics at Dartmouth a transformative experience, not only for athletes, but for the entire community. So when I got involved in the basketball search, I tried to pay some attention. I paid close attention to the entire basketball season. I paid close attention to the NCAA finals. I read a lot about the different people who were going to become available, what the different coaching searches were like, and I participated in with the finalists. I had at least an hour with every single one of them. Let me tell you why I think we made a fantastic choice. Paul Cormier comes to us recommended as one of the best basketball minds in the United States by people that we really respect, people like Dave Gavitt, who played on the last Ivy League winning championship team in 1959. The fact that he has been at the level that he's been, both as an assistant coach and as a scout, means that he knows the game. He knows what talent is all about. And the fact that he's been coaching in the summer leagues means that he's also been on the bench working with individual players, trying to bring teams together. So we know that he's got a great basketball mind. The other part that was really important to me was the conversation we had about recruiting. Now, I'm not a professional in any sense around athletics, but it struck me that there are some people who you immediately know make distinctions that are far beyond the distinction that mere mortals make. He was talking to me about players overseas, about individuals and their skill level, about the details of particular high schools and particular programs. And so a lot of what his job is going to be is to recruit great players. He also said something else to me that was really important, is that the players right here, sitting right here with us, that they have to be having a fantastic experience. They have to every day be dying to get out in the court and want to run through walls, and that's what he's known for. I mean, everyone has told me that, people who've played with him when he was at Dartmouth before, about how great it was to play for Coach Cormier. But more than anything else, the greatest insight I got into Coach Cormier was from my own secretary. Tina Overton is my secretary, and when her son, who's now all grown up and with kids of his own, was 8 years old, he attended one of Coach's basketball camps. And a great tragedy happened. As they were crossing the street to go to basketball camp, her son was hit by a car and broke his arm, but his buddy was killed. And they were, of course, devastated. Can you imagine 8 and 9-year-old kids being killed going to basketball camp? And she said that she'd never met anyone like Coach Cormier before, because he said, not only are we going to do something to memorialize the child who was killed, they actually built a park. Is that right, Paul? They built a park. And he didn't have to do it. It wasn't his responsibility to do it, but that's the kind of citizen he was. When you have a citizen who brings that kind of moral fiber to the job, who's a great game coach, and who can recruit so well that professional teams are trying to retain him to do that, how can you go wrong? You know, a question that every single one of the finalists asked me is, does Dartmouth care about winning? And my answer was unequivocal. Of course we care about winning. Because if we win, what does it mean? It means that these guys have worked their butts off over the spring and the summer to get ready for the next year. It means that these guys learn how to work together as a team. You know, there was that great story about the Cornell team, all 14 living together in one house. Most of the description was frankly about how disgusting it was to be in that house. They never picked up the garbage, or they never did anything like that. But that process brought them together in a way that was palpable. You could see it on the court. That means if we win, that these guys have learned how to work and play with each other in a way that goes beyond what the other competition is. It means that these guys have learned something about persistence. And you know, we're thinking now about what are the most important habits of the mind that we want to instill in our young people before they leave Dartmouth College. At the top of the list is persistence. So if these guys are persistent, if a coach can motivate them to be persistent and every day go out and work hard in preparation for the next year, it means that not only are we winning, but these guys have learned these skills. So winning to me is simply an indication that our young people have done all that it takes, not only for success in the basketball court, but have built skills that will serve them extremely well for the rest of their lives. Learning how to be tough, learning how to get through when you don't think you can get through anymore. I learned first in 2 days in football practice when I was in junior high and high school. Learning how to fight through pain and get through adversity, I learned doing what, I don't know what we call them killers, those line running drills that you do at the end of practice every day. Those are kinds of skills that whatever their shooting percentage or free throw percentage or number of rebounds per game, it's those skills that prepared them to do well that are going to serve them for the rest of their lives. Also, let's be honest, if our football team especially, and our men's basketball team and our women's basketball, if in the great sports that attract so much attention nationally, if we're doing well in those sports, the spirit of the whole campus is lifted. And we want that to happen as well. Not only that, the spirit of all our alumni is lifted. And when our alumni's spirits are lifted, we do well at Dartmouth College. So I couldn't be more pleased to have a guy like Paul, someone with such great moral character such a great coach and such a great recruiter. Those are the things that we need. And we're looking forward, you guys, to having a great year next year. I expect you all to come back huge and strong, jumping out of the gym, and ready to work together to win an Ivy League championship very, very soon. Thank you very much.
You know, I've been asked by a couple of reporters in the last few days about this habit we seem to be developing of bringing back coaches for a second tour of duty. And I think we would all recognize how successful that's been in several other instances and will be coming up this fall and throughout the coming year as well. When we entered the process, we didn't know that we would necessarily be doing that again. But once we had completed all of the preliminary interviews, 20 of them, and many of them out there at Indianapolis, and got it narrowed down to the finalists, and eventually took them through an exhaustive process and did all kinds of networking and research on them, and it became clear that bringing back another coach for a second tour of duty was exactly the right thing to do at the right time. I think back, I wasn't here in athletics, but I was on campus during Paul's first tour of duty, and I sure do remember the level of excitement that was generated in Lead Arena when our team was making a lot of noise in the Ivy League. And in fact, not only did Paul's teams twice finish in second place in the Ivy League, kind of breaking that Penn-Princeton stranglehold on first and second place, but he actually came within a free throw of winning the Ivy championship. So I know that to some extent he feels there's a little bit of unfinished business to take care of here. And I know that we are all committed as a department and as an institution to do everything possible to help him and our student athletes take care of that unfinished business. So it is with great pride that I have the chance now to introduce someone who Coach Jim Calhoun of UConn told us during the search process was not only a great coach, but has been spending the last 12 years getting his PhD in basketball. So I hope you all join me in welcoming back to Dartmouth our new head coach of men's basketball, Paul Cormier.
Now that I've signed my contract, I can admit I wear glasses when I read, and I like to take notes, or I have notes. President Kim, thank you very much for your words, and I might be asking you to give some pre-game talks or halftime talks during the course of next year. And thanks everybody for coming. This is my second time here. I'll fill you in on the first press conference I had. Ted Leland snuck me into campus. The reason being, the first two people he offered the job to turned it down, and the third person called him from Montreal because he got lost coming here. I happened to be in the area, so I got the job, and that's how the first one happened. But I'd like to thank President Kim and Cep and their staffs for putting the confidence in me to get the program back to where we should be and to the next step, which has been mentioned as the Ivy League championship. And the first time I was here, we had some success, but I honestly feel that that's why I am coming back, and that is to get this program to where it hasn't been in over 50 years, and that's to win the Ivy League championship. I've been involved as an assistant at Villanova and in the NCAA tournaments, and when I was at Fairfield as a head coach, we did go to the NCAA tournament and the NIT, and there's nothing like it. You know, it's really the culmination of a lot of hard work and getting some reward, some publicity, some notoriety based on how hard you've worked. And it's something that I really hope that everyone who aspires or works hard in athletics gets a chance to experience. And certainly now here at Dartmouth, that's the goal. That's why I'm here. And during the interview process, well, the first interview process was with Brian and Sep. And we met at a restaurant, and we spoke for about an hour. And they asked basically, what questions do you have? And they asked me several questions. And all my questions, to be honest with you, were based around the emissions policies, the financial aid, and overall, what is the commitment? Where is the school? Because in changing coaches, that's not the key. It's everybody collectively in a we situation. That's how it's done. It's a we situation. It's every part of campus. It's the faculty. It's the staff. It's all the players. It's all the support staff. It's the weight room. It's the athletic director and staff, compliance. All those areas have to be part of the we. And that's where my questions were focused on, because the last time I was here, quite honestly, I really, the reason I left was I found it a struggle to get to that next level, which was actually to win it. And I really believe now, after talking with Seth, Brian, and of course President Kim, that everything is in place. Everyone wants it, and it's not just talk. They really want to put some action behind that talk. And as I knew the lunch, when I found out after that lunch that I was coming back onto campus as one of the 5 finalists, I really was juiced and charged up. And I knew the lunch went well because Sep paid for it. And last time I was here and he was in admissions, he wouldn't pay for anything. So I knew that it went pretty well. So when I came on campus and I met with the players and could feel their yearn to get some direction and get going, I was juiced about that as well. And I had dinner with Sep, and we talked, and he said, so are you ready for the rest of the interview process? And as I told him I was kind of relaxed. And thinking about it, the reason for that was it's the first time in my life I ever really, really wanted a job but didn't need it. I had a good job. I enjoyed what I was doing, but I really was missing the relationships. I wanted to build a program. I really wanted to get back onto a campus community, a thriving campus community like Dartmouth. And that's what was the charge. But I didn't want to come back and be just competitive. And I heard that too much my first time around. Just, we want to be competitive. We're happy we're competitive. And it's not good enough, and it's not what President Kim is about, and I could feel that. So when I left the final interview, I really felt like I hope I didn't blow it, because I probably came across like the job's not that important when it really was, but having the job with the right parameters, that was what I really wanted. And I think they're there, and spending an hour with President Kim and seeing his vigor and his vision was extraordinary. And it's something I could not be happier about being selected. For the players, you know, and I've spoke to many of them, I've contacted every one of them, and you know, it's an exciting time for you guys because you are going to be what I call the tone setters. You have to set the tone for the work ethic that is needed for those that are coming behind you, so that you're actually the building blocks or the foundation of what we're about to build here. And that's got to be exciting to you, and it's going to be a huge commitment on your part, and again, you're going to be the tone setters for that. The last Ivy title that was won here was, you know, over 50 years ago, which was been said, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And I'm here with the help of a lot of people that are in this room, and further help from people in this room to get that goal accomplished. We have to get to a situation where we're competing year in and year out for the Ivy Championship, not to be just competitive. And again, I thank President Kim for being here and Sep for all your help. And I guess if there's any questions, is this the time?
This is the time.
Okay. Any questions from media? I've done a good job ducking you guys.
Coach, if you can just talk about the state of the Ivy League right now with Cornell coming off a Sweet 16 appearance, Harvard, one of the best years they've ever had, Princeton always there. Talk about, where it is right now and where you guys fit and how you can make that next step.
Well, that's a good point. I think the Ivy League, when I was here before, the teams to beat or compete with, the best teams were Penn and Princeton, and it was always kind of like fighting for that third spot. Now, Penn and Princeton are regenerating. They want to get back to that. Cornell obviously has established themselves, and Harvard has made a major commitment and realizes the value of a successful men's program. So you could say, well, are we fighting for fifth? And if that was the case, again, I would not be here. But I think the Ivy League, based on what happened with Cornell and going to the Sweet 16, that's all good. Because now when we go into living rooms and we go talk to players, we can bring it up a little bit as far as the caliber of players that we're going after and the homes that we're going after, and not take a back seat. You get the best education you possibly can get at any school in America, and you're going to compete against some of the better teams in America, and that will be our goal.
Other questions for Coach Cormier?
That was easy.
Very simple. We'll open up to the floor then. If anyone outside the media would like to ask Coach Cormier a question.
Anyone have a house to sell? Want to try to move up? Give me a good deal?
Well, what about staff?
Right now, I'm in the process of collecting a lot of names. I'm going to talk to folks that are here. I'm going to, I have some ideas. I've been in the business for 30 years, believe it or not. I started when I was 12, so you can do the math. But I have a lot of folks that I'm excited about, and that I think would be excited about coming up here, especially when they come up and see the place for themselves and so forth. So I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but they're going to be people who are proven recruiters and people who are the kind of quality people that Dartmouth has always had. Yes.
Well, just talk about yourself as a coach from the first time around to now. I know you've spent a lot of time in management. Has that changed your style at all? I know you said it might change your drive, but how does it change?
Yeah, I think that I am a far better coach than I was when I left. I think I'm someone who is going to be a little bit more analytical because of what you do in the NBA. I hope to bring a niche to Dartmouth that the other Ivy League schools don't have with my experience as far as evaluating. The last 12 years, I've probably been seeing over 100 to 120 NBA games live and evaluating the coaching that's gone on there. And so I've just learned a ton. That's why I got to write notes, because I get so much up here, I can only put so much up. But it's been a tremendous experience for me, and I'm just dying to hopefully use some of the things that I've learned along the way with this team in the future. But I'm not I think I'll make decisions not as impulsive. I think I'll be able to, as my sons say, chill a little bit before overreacting. But no, I think energy is a huge part of being successful as a coach. And I think you got to be a leader and someone that the players have to buy into what they're saying. Up here at Dartmouth, with the intelligence factor, they have to understand, maybe sometimes before they do things. But once we cross the court and get onto the court, then there's no questions. We just work, and they'll know that there's a clear-cut leader or who's in charge once we get in those lines. if that answers your question. I'm going to get all my OB plays from Chris Welligus. I'm going to meet with her and get all my out-of-bounds plays from her. She's the best.
Other questions for Coach Cormier or Bob Ceplikas? If not,
I'll jump in since nobody else is. I was sitting here thinking we were both at Yale when those foul shots didn't go down. You talk a little bit about that was an experience for an individual who grew tremendously from that night and ended up actually playing a little bit in the NBA.
Right.
Talk a little bit about going from taking somebody and a program, there's a metaphor there, I think, to the top, from the worst experience ever to
Yeah.
as good as it gets.
Well, the person that Bruce is talking about is a kid by the name of James Blackwell. And James Blackwell, first of all, he was a great story for Dartmouth because at that time, admissions took a little bit of a risk per se, and he became not only a very good basketball player, but a community leader for the African American groups that were on campus at that time. And I think the mutual reward for both the school and for James, that was the great story. James missed a free throw, which kept us from being in a playoff for the tying for first place and playing a playoff game to win the Ivy League. And we were on a roll, so we were playing very, very well at that time. But James was a freshman, and he ended up, giving up a scholarship to Providence College to come here, and was a real factor in getting our program to the success level that we had or enjoyed during my first tenure. I didn't speak to him much after he missed that free throw, though. I was so livid with him. But no, he was a kid who was an emotional leader. He was a true competitor. He was he was probably my best recruiter for the 4 years I was here, because if you stayed with James, you didn't leave campus until you committed that you were coming here, and he was that kind of kid. But we also had other kids along with James that were like that, and I hope that the spirit that this team will have will be one where they're going to feel that it's special to be part of the men's basketball program. It's special to be an athlete at Dartmouth. And that's something that just doesn't happen. It takes them committing and showing that they want to work, so that all of a sudden heads pop up and see them in the weight room like, wow, there's an effort here. There's a little bit of a difference here. There's a little bit of a spirit that maybe was not present, because whether things weren't going right, feeling sorry for themselves, whatever the situation might be. But I think that's part of what's great about being involved in athletics. There are so many life lessons that you can learn as far as being an athlete. And I think the situation that we're in now, where young, lack experience in a lot of cases, and now have something to prove, this is the chance, or this is a legacy that these players could leave as far as setting the tone, as I've mentioned, being the foundation of something real special, as was the case with James. But I hope these guys leave here feeling real good that at the end of their year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the situation might be, that they've had a major, major part of why we're now successful in the future. That answers your question.
other questions? And a reminder to please raise your hand and wait for a microphone to come around. If not, we'll conclude this press conference. We want to thank you for coming out today, and we look forward to seeing you during the coming season.
Thank you, sir. Nice job.